What if all of this has happened before? Not just once, but over and over again. The rise and fall of empires, the dawn of new technologies, our greatest triumphs and our most world-shattering tragedies. What if history isn't a line stretching forward, but a circle? A 5,000-year loop we're all trapped in, living out a cosmic experiment run by forces we can barely imagine. And what if, every time we get too close to a real breakthrough global peace, free energy, the truth, someone or something hits the reset button? The proof isn't buried in some dusty old document. It's that nagging feeling you get that something about our world is just off. The only question is, are you ready to wake up? This feeling that we're all just repeating ourselves isn't just in your head. We see echoes of it everywhere. Historians William Strauss and Neil Howe, for instance, noticed that American history seems to move in 80 to 100-year cycles. They called them turnings, for stages that always end in a crisis that tears down the old world to build a new one. They pointed to events like the American Revolution, the Civil War, and World War II. But what if that's not the whole story? What if those 80-year cycles are just tiny ripples from a much, much bigger wave? Proponents of a grander theory suggest these are just fractal echoes of a vast, 5,000-year operating system that dictates the birth, growth, and destruction of entire civilizations. This is the true prison of history. Each time a society rises, innovates, and builds. But just as it approaches a genuine breakthrough, a technological singularity, or a leap in human consciousness, the system crashes. A cataclysm, a war, a sudden collapse throws us all back into a dark age. We're forced to start over with no memory of what came before, doomed to make the same mistakes, all while thinking we're making progress. This isn't chaos. It's a controlled demolition. So who's running the show? To find the theoretical architects, we have to look back at ancient texts often dismissed as myth. Around the 2nd and 3rd centuries, a collection of movements we now call Gnosticism described a terrifying picture of reality. They didn't speak of a kind, all-knowing creator, but of a flawed, lesser being they called the Demiurge. In Gnostic tradition, the Demiurge is an ignorant and arrogant cosmic builder who fashioned our material world not as a paradise, but as an imperfect cage. To police this prison, the Demiurge created the Archons, the rulers. These beings act as celestial jailers, and their job is to keep humanity trapped here, distracted and unaware of the divine spark hidden inside us. Now, mainstream scholarship will tell you these are just symbols, clever allegories for human flaws. But what if the Gnostics weren't being poetic? What if they were describing reality as they saw it? What if the Demiurge and its Archons are the ones running this whole experiment? Their motive would be simple: control. If we achieved global unity, we couldn't be manipulated by fear. If we mastered free energy, we couldn't be contained. So they keep us on this 5,000-year hamster wheel, watching and studying, just to make sure we never ever find the exit. The evidence for these resets is hidden in plain sight. It starts with a catastrophic event that scrubs the timeline clean. Almost every ancient culture on Earth has a story about it. A great flood, while science explains these as memories of massive, local deluges after the last ice age. These stories all sound eerily similar, speaking of a world-ending event that forced humanity to start over. Was this the master reset, wiping out a global civilization that, according to myth, was getting too powerful? Out of this supposed reset, anomalies pop up that break the official timeline. History books tell us that civilization began around 3000 BCE, but in Turkey. The site of Göbekli Tepe laughs at that notion. It's a complex of massive, intricately carved stone pillars dated to around 9600 BCE, thousands of years before we supposedly invented agriculture, writing, or complex construction. Academics say it was a temple built by hunter-gatherers, but the timeline just doesn't quite add up. Unless, of course, Göbekli Tepe isn't the beginning of our civilization, but a leftover from a previous one they couldn't fully erase. After the flood, the simulation appears to reboot. Around 3000 BCE, civilizations in Sumer and Egypt seem to burst onto the scene with a surprisingly advanced toolkit of astronomy, math, and engineering. It wasn't a slow crawl from the mud. It was like a new program booting up. From there, the pattern arguably repeats. The Indus Valley civilization, from 2600 to 1900 BCE, built huge, planned cities with advanced drainage systems, but strangely no palaces or forts, suggesting a remarkably peaceful and equal society. Then they vanished. The official story blames climate change drying up their rivers. But isn't it convenient that a natural climate shift happened right as a utopian society was thriving? Then there's the Minoan civilization on Crete, peaking around 1600 BCE. They were a peaceful maritime empire whose art showed people in harmony, not at war. Their palaces were unfortified. Then the nearby volcano of Thera erupted in one of history's most powerful explosions, shattering their civilization, a natural disaster, or a perfectly aimed strike to neutralize a culture that had figured out peace. Centuries later, look at China's Song dynasty. From 960 to 1279 CE, this era was an explosion of innovation. They developed gunpowder, movable type printing, the compass, and paper money. They were on the verge of an industrial revolution centuries before the West, and what happened? They were wiped out by the Mongol invasions. History calls it geopolitical expansion. But in the context of the loop, it looks a lot like another engineered reset. But maybe the controllers are getting sloppy. In our connected world, people are starting to notice the glitches in the matrix. That feeling of déjà vu when a moment feels so familiar it's unnerving. Or the Mandela Effect, where huge groups of people misremember the same historical details. Psychology dismisses these as simple quirks of human memory. But what if they're more? What if they are echoes from a previous loop, memories bleeding through from a past life? They could even be evidence of timeline manipulation, hinted at in rumors of shadowy government programs like Project Looking Glass, an alleged device that could view the future, while its existence is completely unverified and officially denied. The very idea taps into our gut feeling that time isn't as simple as it seems. So how do you break a 5,000-year cycle? The answer is the one thing these archons would fear: a mass awakening. Their power is based on our ignorance. The prison isn't made of steel and stone. It's a prison for the mind. They thrive in the shadows, feeding on the fear and division they create. The ancient Gnostics believed the way out was through gnosis, which is just a Greek word for knowledge. Not book smarts, but a deep, intuitive understanding of who we really are. They believed the divine spark from a true, transcendent reality was trapped inside each of us, and the Archon's entire system is designed to make us forget it. Breaking the loop doesn't require a physical revolution. It requires a revolution of consciousness. It starts by questioning the official story. It grows by seeing the patterns of history not as accidents, but as potential manipulations. Every time you share this idea, every time you trust that feeling that this has all happened before, you're helping create a crack in the prison wall. The simulation starts to break down when the subjects realize they're being watched. Today, we're standing at a familiar cliff's edge. Our global civilization is more connected than ever, with technology that could lead to total destruction or unbelievable abundance. We have the internet, a tool for global consciousness, and we've unlocked the atom, the ultimate source of energy. We are, once again, approaching that breakthrough point. You can feel the reset coming in the instability of the world, in the rising tensions and the feeling that some great crisis is just around the corner. But this time can be different. Unlike the Minoans or the people of the Indus Valley, we can share knowledge across the globe in an instant. The memories of past loops are bubbling up, not as myths, but as warnings. The cycle only breaks when we choose to remember. The question is, are you starting to remember? Thanks for watching, and if this made you think, make sure to like and subscribe for more.